call the Commissioners meeting to order for August 15, 2022. We have a quorum present, so we will do business. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have a full agenda, so we're going to just dive right into it. The first item that we have is the drainage issue. Mr. Eckerly, would you like to address the board?
Yeah.
Hold up, sir. For the record, good to say who you are.
Okay. Here's a petition from some
Thank you.
landowners. My name is Patrick Eckerly. I'm one of the farmers that's impacted by the silt accumulation in the ditch that runs through this property. The property has a watershed of about 550 acres and begins north of County Road 400, the watershed does. The ditch is full of silt and it needs to be cleaned out. The property was logged in July and August of 2019, and it is a classified forest, the whole property is. During the logging process, many treetops and debris ended up in the ditch. I asked the logger and the owner if they were going to clean the debris out of the ditch, and they said no. I offered to clean the ditch and the debris out at that time when the logging was done, and they also said no. And I offered to do that at my expense. I knew this would turn into a silt problem, so I took several pictures for documentation. I got pictures of when they finished logging, and I got pictures 3 months later after a heavy rain event. Here's the pictures after logging was done. Here's the pictures 3 months later after a heavy rain event.
Pat, can you be a little more specific as to where this is located?
It's located in Bainbridge Township. It's 40 acres, and it's would be north of 36th Street or 300 North.
300 north. Here you go, Bill. That's after the log and after the rain. So these photographs are taken on your property?
Okay.
On this property
On the property that you, okay.
that the logging was done.
Okay. I just didn't know it had washed down to your property yet. That's
No,
what it happened.
my property drains into this property.
Oh, I see.
After I replanted my adjacent cornfield this spring, I contacted Travis Dunn, the state forester, who is in charge of the classified forest program in the state of Indiana, and also Tom Sawinski from IDEM. And I explained the situation to them. They said since the owner will not clean it out or grant permission to clean it out, I should bring it before the local drainage board. They said it is a local issue and should be dealt with at the local level, not at the state level. He also said the ditch can be cleaned out using the one-step method and does not require permit from IDEM. And it will not be a regulated activity when the ditch is cleaned out.
What's a one-step method?
It is going in there and pulling out the silt. You can't change the ditch, and you can't dig into the ditch banks, but you can take out the deposits that are in the ditch.
Do they have any regulations of where to put it? Can they just be put?
It can be put upstream. In other words, you have to get it away from the ditch so far so it doesn't run back in.
Okay.
So I have pictures of my replant cornfield. And that field has a network tile system in it. And there's a picture of that. And there's the outlet of my tile, which is covered with water and hasn't drained for 11 days since I took this picture of it. When you grow crops, there are many additional high management practices you can do to increase yields. Any agronomist or certified crop advisor will tell you there are 3 things you must address before you try any of these other management practices. And the 3 things to address are weed control, soil fertility, and drainage. And they all have to be accomplished together. If you're missing any one of those, it's pointless to go any further, to try to increase your yields. If you look at that sheet that I gave you, that petition, everybody that signed that will tell you how this poor drainage is affecting their farming operation. And they'll be glad to tell you their story. The owner was asked on multiple occasions by many different people to clean out the ditch, but he will not allow it or do it. He hired a contractor last winter with a trackhoe to dig a new ditch along my property line and divert some of his water from his ground onto my ditch, so it has to re-enter his property, which made the situation even worse. He has also cleared several areas of classified forest and has not sown any grass or anything on it, which is a requirement to do. When you clear an area like that, you're supposed to sow native grasses to prevent erosion. I got a picture of the silt accumulation in the ditch, and you can see how it's filled up.
So Pat, if you went in and with what you're allowed to do, are you allowed to take the silt out too, or just the logs and the debris?
The logs and debris can be removed.
Okay. But you couldn't dig this out?
Yep.
Oh, you couldn't, so
Yeah, that's filled up, as you can see.
Right.
That ditch was probably at least 2.5 feet deeper there. Here's a snippet from the DNR website about removing the log jam. If the area is less than 1 square mile range into it, they don't have any jurisdiction. Here's a picture of the new ditch he dug. You can see that. I washed the silt out of that. Picture of one of the areas clear.
So I guess the first question is, why wouldn't the owner want you to clear it out at your expense? I mean, what harm does it have to that person for you to do that?
I don't know, I can't figure that out. I mean, it would help us classify forest. You know, when trees are in water like that all the time, you know, it's got a lot of diseased and dead trees there.
You would think, I mean, I don't know who the owner where you're talking about is.
It's Jeff Sheeter.
Now I know.
It's
I was gonna say, is it a situation where you guys just don't get along, or is there some benefit he's getting by not having it cleaned out?
I don't see a benefit he's getting by not having it cleaned out.
Do you have a number as to what the drainage area is? It's less than 1 square mile?
Yes.
So it's something less than that, okay?
Yep.
Is Mr. Sheeter here today?
No.
Oh, okay. I didn't know if somebody back there was him that wanted to hear this situation. Does anyone else in attendance want to make a comment?
Ken Brosmer, County Surveyor. I had Patrick come to the meeting, this meeting, because it's not a county regulated ditch.
Right.
It's not one of our 10 ditches, so I didn't know where to advise him, since it's not under the Drainage Board jurisdiction, to come and talk to you guys this morning and see if you would have some ideas for him to move forward with this ditch. So from a Drainage Board standpoint, it really doesn't fall under our jurisdiction. So,
Right.
Okay.
So that's why we didn't have this meeting as a drainage board meeting, because it doesn't apply.
Sorry.
Thank you. Anyone else? Morning.
Good morning, folks. I'm Dwayne Hof, partner in Mill Creek Farms. Have about 100 acres upstream of this issue with Patrick and Mr. Sheeter. Certainly have some tile systems up there that are also being restricted due to the lay of the land being really flat in that area. So any issue downstream trickles on up the stream with the sediment built up. So we've got tile systems also that are underwater and being impeded by this issue. So I want to voice my concern with you with this issue and also other issues throughout the county, that we continue to try and strive and keep the drainage ditches open, because it's very important for us as farmers and producers to do what we do. It's just simplistic gravity stuff, and we can do the best we can in these issues now and in the future. Would certainly appreciate it. Fully support this initiative to try to get this issue resolved in that area back there. So, thank you very much.
So before you go, if we were to say, what is the one action you think that needs to be done to resolve this?
Well, I just think the issue of this property that's not being able to be accessed for dredging, cleaning, is really the paramount issue there. Most of the other landowners on their own take initiative to get a contractor, use their own equipment at their own cost and facilities to do that on their own. But this one here is kind of just an issue that they don't take that action, and therefore anybody that's upstream becomes affected by it willingly or unwillingly. So
Does Mr. Sheeter farm anything, or is his, well, trees only?
he just has trees on that track.
Okay.
He's currently putzed around, cleaning up a little bit here and there, but there's no agricultural production on that. But there certainly is around his area and all the way up to the watershed, which is actually in 3 different townships upstream further. And certainly is affecting many other producers, landowners, et cetera. So I think, we need to somehow get this addressed. I don't have the mind or the means to figure it out on my own, but I know the voice my display.
So,
What you just said, about 3 different townships, and as I look at the map here, I find it hard to believe that the drainage area is only 1 square mile, or it's less than 1 square mile.
Yeah, it's kind of flat, Elmer, and it drains, to the Mill Creek. It actually goes south, then it hooks around to the east and goes north through Mill Creek Farms and all that kind of stuff down through there. So it's kind of fickle how the water goes in different directions, but I never did do the cumulative acre count, but I know it is very, very flat and sensitive to drainage issues. So that's why a lot of us are here today. We want to kind of preserve drainage in that flat area.
So maybe I should ask Kenny, how do we know that it drains less than 1 square mile? How do we know that?
The Justin at the Dubois County SWCD run the numbers,
Okay,
and it's less than 1 square mile.
okay.
Yeah, they probably run elevation planes based off of drainage and, where it sheds into different tributaries of whatever stream it is. And there's technology to do that, but I don't have access to where I've done that.
Okay.
Thank you, folks.
Mr. Schneider, do you have any guidance for the board?
For the board, I don't know that, one, it's not a regulated drain, and if it was, obviously, it had to be before the drainage board, not the board of commissioners. Whether or not this is a private matter because it's an unregulated drain, I don't know what the board can do here today, short of task me to see if there is something within the purview of the commissioners to address it in the future. Regardless, you can't do anything today because Mr. Sheeter, one, it's not a public hearing, he wasn't given notice or anything else, even if you had that authority. So I'm happy to look into that further. Again, I don't know if it's something that the drainage board would want to take up to make it a public drain. I think some more research would need to go into this.
Okay.
Well, one thing if I could mention, since that is a forest and all those trees around there, if you clean it out today, somebody has to make sure that when we get a high wind event and it blows something down, that it's cleaned out. If a big tree falls in there and it lays in there for 6 months, it's going to start depositing silt again. This is something that, somebody has to maintain as a landowner. You pick up your limbs in your yard when you got a high rain, wind event, storm blows stuff down. But since it's hard to access that ditch, stuff can lay in there for a long time.
So I think having Mr. Schneider review what authority we have or don't have would be a next step for us. We can put it on our next agenda to hear from Mr. Schneider of what we can or can't do.
Yeah,
And over there, I don't like government that says, oh, it's not our problem and just keep moving you on, but we do want to help you get to the right conclusion. And yeah, I guess I don't understand the whole dynamics of why someone wouldn't want something cleaned out for free if it causes them no harm to get it done for free. But again, I don't know, I may not know the whole story. So I think that's about the only thing I could offer today, Mr. Hostetter.
Until we hear from Mr. Schneider, I really don't know what we can do, so we'll just have to wait and hear back from him.
Ross?
Yeah, no, I agree. I understand the frustrations. You can't drain it. We don't know if we can drain, fix it, but we'll look into it and see what our options are, and maybe just your presence here today will have some impact.
It'd be nice if we just let you come in and take care of it.
So, is there anyone else? So is A and G, is that the same as Mr. Sheeter? Or who's A?
Yes,
It is.
He's the owner, yes.
Okay. Well, thank you for your attendance today and for, do you want should we give this, items back? Do you want those or do you want us to keep those for our record?
It's up to you.
I think it'd probably be best if you just had them. We understand the nature of the problem. That way you don't have to print them again if you need to show them to someone else. But, I think you made a pretty good case of what's happening out there. So you'll have that, Mr. Schneider to talk about next time. Thank you again for coming in. We appreciate your sharing that with us. Thank you, Ms. Rosen. Okay, 8:45 is our DuBois County Community Corrections Director new hire. And Judge McConnell
That's
here.
wrong, it should have been in.
Okay.
Good morning.
Change it, but it didn't.
I'm here on behalf of the advisory board this morning. I'm Anthony Quinn, serve currently as chair of that board. We obviously had our director resign, so we had to replace the director. In the hiring process, there was a subcommittee of our board consisting of 6 members, I believe. We interviewed 7 applicants. Of those 7 applicants, the majority of them were good applicants. We were pleased. We initially had 14 that applied for the position. After going through the interview process, the hiring committee had a unanimous recommendation for our advisory board. We met last week to discuss that recommendation. Once we did, we are here today to recommend that Wyatt Madden be hired as our next director of community corrections. Mr. Madden currently works at Putnamville Correctional Facility. He has begun the process of complying with the hiring requirements of DuBois County, obviously subject to your authorization. Mr. Madden is a native of DuBois County. He's a Huntingburg resident originally, grew up in the area and is looking forward to moving back here to DuBois County. If there are questions, several of the board members that were on the hiring committee are here today that can assist in answering any questions you guys may have. Our recommendation or motion at that meeting was to hire Mr. Madden at the current salary for which Mr. Luff was making. I don't think there was anything else included in that motion, was there, Doug? Exactly was. Okay. So with that, I'm here to ask the commissioners to approve the hire of Wyatt Madden, our next director of community corrections.
So I'm on that advisory board and I reviewed all of the applications as they came in, and I think the board did a fine job with it. And I don't think there was any disagreement among anyone on the advisory board that this was the correct person to hire. And I don't know if I really have any other comments on this particular candidate.
I tend to trust our advisory boards, and when I see they're unanimously recommended, that gives me a little more confidence. So,
No problem.
Yeah, no, I don't have a problem with the individual at all. Tell me again what the salary?
It was $63,000.
Commissioner Brown's, I think I may know where you're going. So what I'll tell you what I would like to see happen today, and then we can talk about it from there. Some discussion was had on turning the job from a 35-hour-a-week position to a 40-hour position. So the first thing I would recommend today is that we change the job description to make it a 40-hour position starting immediately. There was some discussion of keeping it at 35 hours for the remainder of this year, and then when we have the new budget cycle next year, switching the person to 40 hours. I think I would say probably more of the people on the advisory board, if I was to guess, thought, well, I only talked to a few of them, so I won't say what I think they thought. But I think it's talking with, just overall, I think it's a better idea to have a 40-hour position here. The current director mentioned that they spent at least 35 hours per week on site, and then there was other, phone calls and other work outside of the office that likely gets them to 40 hours every week anyway. So my recommendation would be to start the process by changing the person to a 40-hour per week position, making that 2,080 hours per year. And so I would just like to have discussion on that to start with.
And was that option discussed in the hiring process? Was the individual aware of what the number of hours?
No, this is totally new. This wasn't even discussed with the full advisory board. We haven't had a discussion on changing that amongst the entire board. There was a subcommittee that met with Megan as she was departing to discuss some other issues, and that came up there. But it's not been brought before the board. Mr. Madden, whenever he was going through the hiring process, was given a job description from the county. I believe that would have included the 35-hour week that it's currently at, correct? So Mr. Madden is under the impression that it is a 35-hour week position, based on the information he was given at his initial interview. I haven't had any discussions with him about it before. I don't know if you talked to him.
No, I talked to him on Thursday and we did the drug testing and all that, but hours wise, no.
So I agree with Anthony that it wasn't brought up, but if we're going to make a job offer to someone, I think now is the time to do it, and that's what our expectation was going to be. Be it now or in January or whatever time. It's just the discussion that I've had with others was, if you're going to lead a department, especially one that's as large and as busy as this one, it's at least a 40-hour position.
Yeah, and I don't necessarily have a problem with it. I'm just wondering whether we're going about it the right way. In other words, what is his position on it? Would that change his interest in the position or anything? Is what's the board's position on it? From what I understood you to say, one of you say, is that it really wouldn't change a whole lot, that probably there's been 40 hours been put in already for the position.
Well, from the advisory.
Is it being brought to us as a recommendation beyond just from this board?
Correct, because the advisory board has not discussed it nor made that recommendation. I'm not in a position to speak on behalf of the entire board as to what we would or would not do. Obviously, the director position does require often more than 35 hours of work. Whether or not that would change Mr. Madden's desire for this position, I doubt it. But again, that's a conversation that's not been had with him. So I don't know. I think, from the board's perspective, I think we would like to have an opportunity to discuss that and then, perhaps make a recommendation to the commissioners. Obviously, I understand you don't have to have input from the board on that issue, but certainly think it's worthy of having that discussion amongst our advisory board, our next meeting.
I guess my position would be, barring any other convincing, is that I'm in agreement that 40 hours is probably a good idea, but I would like to have that recommendation come from the board after talking to Mr. Madden and the rest of the board.
When does the board meet again?
Our next scheduled meeting is September 13th, I believe.
I think from a county's position, it's our job to determine job descriptions and hours. And in this case, if we believe that it's supposed to be a 40-hour position, it's our decision to make. And I agree. We'd like to have advice from advisory boards, but if we require the job to have a 40-hour work week, then that's our decision to make.
No, I don't disagree with that, but
I'd like to have the input from the boards as well.
So what that does, if we do that, it puts us in a different it's a different dynamic, because then you're asking the person, well, you're getting 35 hours now, let's negotiate while you're already midway in the job.
That was my next question, was the salary gonna reflect the additional 5 hours a week, or were we gonna hire them in at the same salary that Megan was at, but ask them to work an additional 5 hours?
So my suggestion was going to be, there's been discussion with the advisory board and the previous director that the salary of the position should be increased, that it needs to be higher, that it's not comparable with other similar corrections operations in other counties. So there's been a lot of discussion with the council and some of the advisory board members of how that would look. So another thing that I was thinking was if the wage needs to go up, then you multiply the hourly rate times 5 more hours, it pays them for all the time that they're actually working. So the wage itself, the rate, would be determined by the council. But if the rate is $30, but it's not, but let's just say it's $30 and it's 30 times 35, you make one wage, and 30 times 40, you're still getting paid, you're getting paid a set amount per hour, you'll end up making more money per year. I would argue that I would guess that the current director is probably working those extra several hours and not getting paid for them. I just think now is the time to do it, then hire somebody and then try to change their job in 2 months. It just seems like a more appropriate time when we make an offer to say, our offer will be 20 hours at this rate for the remainder of this year, and then, what it'll be next year, because it'll change depending on what the council wants to do.
I think I would recommend offering the position, let them know it's 35 hours for the remainder of this year, and that the commissioners are considering going to a 40-hour week for the next year, and then we can weigh all our options, hear from our advisory board, we might hear Megan's opinion on the matter as well, and then make a decision about the 40 hours for next year. I don't necessarily disagree with you, I just like to have all the input.
Yeah, and I agree, and I agree completely that 40 hours is likely where we're going with it, but maybe it feels a little quick this morning. This feels like we're making a decision pretty quick here this morning without the input of all the people involved. So I don't know that it's first of the year, it might be 60 days, 90 days. We're getting close to the first of the year, but I'd like a little bit more input before I would make that decision.
Can I say one thing?
Sure.
Two, I wasn't part of that interview committee, but the committee said 35 hours was the schedule, I think. If we would renege on that and say all of a sudden it's 40, now right before he starts, I don't think that'd be good. Good of our work, or that interview process, we committed 35 hours.
That's kind of what,
I think we have to commit 35 hours initially, and then that would also give him about 3 weeks to be in a position before the advisory board and kind of get his feet wet and just communicate to the advisory board what's needed and what he's seeing.
And it wasn't a discussion that we had with Mr. Madden. We did, though, provide him with that job description, a written job description at the time of the interview with the candidates. We gave us all of those external candidates that we interviewed. So he was provided with the county's copy of it, of the job description. So he's under that assumption at this point.
Okay, well, it appears that the board has made that determination, so that's fine there. As far as wages, again, I'll just tell you my opinion on it. It's, I guess, not ultimately our determination, but I didn't want to bring in a new person at the same hourly rate of pay that we were paying the current director per hour. I just don't know that that's a good business decision to pay somebody with no experience here. I guess for the remainder of this year, I guess it's ultimately going to be the council's decision, but I guess my recommendation to the council would be to reduce the hourly wage until at least the 2023 budget, which they're in the middle of right now. And they can determine what they want to pay for next year. But maybe that's an issue that doesn't even need to be brought up here because it's not our final word. But I wouldn't mind hearing your opinions on that. Do you think the new person should come in at the same wage that the exiting director is making?
Well, again, I'll speak to it a little bit. I don't know. I get your point that normally if the wage was where it should have been in the first place, normally you would do that. So if you bring them in at the same hourly rate, we're not talking annual rate here, but hourly rate, does that say that our previous director should have been making more money? And I think it's okay to say that. So I don't know that I have a problem with it, and I would go back to what was the discussion during the hiring process. And surely there was a wage that was laid out there as an expectation for the person before they accept the job. And what was that? And if we now cut it back is, I don't think we can cut it back. I don't think we want to cut it back if that was laid out there.
I think I got mixed signals maybe on if wage was discussed with the person or not. 'Cause I think I asked Mr. Quinn and somebody else, and they said, well, we didn't really talk about wages, but I thought another person on the committee said that they had. So I'm not.
During the interview, I think Jenny may have asked a question. Did you ask a question about wages to Mr.
I
Madden?
did, and then also when I called him to see if he would be willing to accept the position prior to our advisory board meeting, the pay was discussed at the current salary that the director is making.
And as far as the board's recommendation, it goes more in line with what Mr. Bromas was saying. The board had recommended that the director have a wage increase last year. We did feel that Megan was underpaid. So that is part of the discussion that was had as to why we feel that Mr. Madden should start out that salary. The position was underpaid the last few years.
And again, it is going to be a council decision, but my recommendation is to go with what the board is, what I'm hearing the hiring committee and the board was assuming we would go at.
No, I don't want to be too argumentative on the point, because I think the board does a fine job and they're all good people. But it's not really the advisory board's job to determine the wage.
No, it's the
And it's
council.
not the advisory board's job to determine the hours. And if they did speak to those things, I think they probably did it the right way, because if they did say anything, they said it was 35 hours, that's what the job is. So I'm not saying they did anything wrong, but ultimately it would be our determination to figure that out. So the 35 hours for sure, I understand why that could have been portrayed to the person, but the wage necessarily is somebody else's determination.
Yeah, we understand that. We're just, we make recommendations, and that's what the board felt was appropriate, and that's why we're sharing that information. Certainly understand which lane we're in, and that's what we felt was appropriate, and that's why we made those recommendations.
Yeah, and my position is that I agree, 40 hours is our determination. The wage is the council's determination, and we can make a recommendation to the council. But before I make a decision, I want to hear from the people involved.
And again, I'll say everybody that's on that board has been great with talking with myself and with Mr. Kleesner, and I think there's been open communication, so I appreciate that too. I don't think there was any contention. I think it's just been discussion. And if this board feels fine with keeping it at 35 hours, really, I think that's our only action that I wanted to take any different than just saying we want to hire this individual. So I think we've had enough discussion on it. I'd be in favor of moving that we hire Wyatt Madden as the new director of community corrections at the 35 hours per week as as is currently in the job description.
I'll second.
Any other discussion? Anything else from you, Mr. Quinn?
No.
Okay, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. And I think the rest of the issues will be brought up with the council, but so the offer will be made to him today and maybe he can start in a week, is that what I understand?
He was anticipating the 22nd, I believe, is that right? Okay. His birthday, August 22nd.
Look forward to him coming in and Mr. Earl, I appreciate all the years you put in.
Yes.
Thank you for being here today and pretty much universally everyone's that I've ever talked to has said that the community corrections has made great strides over the years that you've been the director. It's been not quite 6 years, is that correct? So not quite 6 years, and there's been a lot of growth, a lot of vision that you put into it, and I think that the legacy that you leave behind for that office is going to be felt for a lot of years to come. And thank you for your input and what you've done.
Absolutely.
And I would agree, and I think that's a comment I shared with Megan on Friday, that she came in at a difficult time and built the department together with her staff, the people around her, and built the department into something not that we can be proud of, but that we are proud of. I think it's one of the better community corrections facilities and programs throughout the state of Indiana.
Absolutely.
You know, and on top of that too, the work that the judges have put in, and Mr. Quinn and Mr. Tarvin and everybody from on the board, it's a big board. There's 20-something folks on there. To have 6 of them that are willing to be part of the hiring committee, and there's always good input. It's a healthy, functioning organism out there, and I think the groundwork that has been set over the last 5 years will ensure we have future success. So it's really, really great.
And as far as the 40-hour issue, you'll discuss that at your next board meeting and with the matter and come back and make a recommendation.
And again on that, I think everybody's on the same boat. We want the person to be paid appropriately, and we'll work towards that end. This isn't the end of the conversation. So.
I did see there was another board item on the agenda later. I don't know, we got several members here. If there's any questions commissioners had for us while we're here, I think most of us will probably be leaving.
Sure. It was just for
Some vacancies.
yeah, there's 2 vacancies on the board, and we will formally do it later, but I did talk to Superintendent at Northeast DuBois. They're willing to do it again, so I will present to the board that appointment to see if they would approve that appointment. And then there's another lay person in the community as part of the community that I'm going to just ask them if they will support putting them on the board. So those are really the only 2 issues. Would you have any comment or questions for any of the advisory board members while they're here?
Okay.
I think that's the only thing we're going to talk about.
Great. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. 911 dispatcher, new hire, Mr. Wilson.
Good morning.
Morning.
So I'm here to ask permission to make a hire for a vacancy that was created when we had a resignation. As you know, Jason Blair, an 11-year dispatcher, has resigned his position to pursue another career. And we do miss his experience and his intelligence. And we're gonna keep chugging along. I'm here to ask permission to hire Rodney Welp as a full-time probationary telecommunicator. I hope to have Rodney start in about 45 minutes. Good thing we didn't go any later. We did have a panel interview that consisted of a county council member that's on my advisory board, my assistant director, Marky from Human Resources, myself.
Sheriff Linehunter.
Sheriff Linehunter. We had about a dozen applications for the opening. We looked hard at 5 candidates that were,
pretty worthwhile after reviewing internally. We were able to formally interview 2 of those, one of which lives out of the area. And I definitely, I would like to entertain her for future offers. And then the second candidate that was not selected, I would also like to retain for future openings, where we can just not conduct formal interviews. I needed to finish up some background investigation stuff on, speak to previous employers. We were just having, there was formal paperwork that had to be filed to talk to people from the Indiana State Police about prior employment. So on one of the candidates, they have an extremely formal situation that just took some time to play out. But either way, I would like to retain 2 of the other candidates for future hires, if anything. I've learned in the last 16 months is we will have a lot of turnover. This is the 4th position that's turned over in 16 months. And I do not see that stopping anytime soon for a multitude of reasons. But we're going to keep charging forward and doing the best we can. We still have 2 trainees. So effectively, we're down 3 as of today. We are accumulating comp time. I'm working shifts. We're doing the best we can. But we're just going to keep plugging along and charging forward. So I don't really have anything to add from Mr. Welk. He lives in the Ferguson area. I've known him casually for 20 years. I'm looking forward to his positive attitude and good outlook. Bring some upbeat personality into our center, because it's hard work.
Did you say his last name was Welk?
Well, yes, he's originally from the Celston
I
area.
wrote down Stark. I don't know what I heard.
Originally from Celston, but lives in Ferguson now. He has adult children, and he's very excited about starting this morning.
I don't know, I don't feel too good about this one. No, again, these board members do a good job, so I reviewed the applications, read all of them, and this was a good candidate, so I'll support them forward with this person. Any other comments? All right, I motion that we hire Rodney Welk as a 911 dispatcher, effective immediately.
I'll second this.
All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Wilson.
Thank you.
I need a restroom break.
I'm good.
All right, let's keep going right into it. We've got help with Ryan Bobble, Denny Spinner, and Alex is not here. He sent the A team. He was here last week. Oh, you don't know it.
How
you doing?
Good.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm Denny Spinner. I'm the Executive Director of the Office of Community and Rural Affairs for the state of Indiana. And I come representing Lieutenant Governor Suzanne Crouch, who sends her greetings to all of you. We have dried out since the Strassenfest parade. So my car has not, but we have. Thank you very much for having this opportunity to come and speak to you. I'm no stranger to each of you, and this is a great honor for me to be here representing our agency in this role, as our program is something that we're very excited about and glad to have Du Bois County as an active participant in. When the Stellar program was launched back in 2011 by then Lieutenant Governor Skillman, that was an effort to help Indiana communities recover from an economic downturn at that time. The program allowed local units of government to dream big dreams and to create additional projects that transform communities engaged in Stellar. And I think I had a little personal engagement with that. And it changed our community in Huntingburg when I was involved in that. Today, Indiana's rural communities are facing another challenge of recovering from the effects of the worldwide pandemic. And under the leadership of Lieutenant Governor Crouch, Okra was challenged to create a program to meet those needs as they were now. Local leaders are faced with the challenge of properly and effectively utilizing funds from the American Rescue Plan that is available to them, and seeking guidance in making decisions to create legacy projects that will sustain their communities for years to come. So the HELP program was an opportunity to promote stability in Hoosier communities and make them more resilient to future economic downturns. Now, HELP is an acronym. I became officially a state government official when I created an acronym. I spoke acronym for the first 6 months I was in there to translate for me what those things meant. So now I actually have an acronym that I helped create, and it's HELP, the Hoosier Enduring Legacy Program. HELP melds the pillars of that Okra Stellar initiative, which was very successful, into a program that will capitalize on our previous efforts and address the current environment faced by Hoosier communities. This new program supports cities, towns, and counties directly by building capacity, creating a peer network system between communities participating in the program, and developing a strategic investment plan that will provide access to funding set aside and help those communities implement that strategic investment plan. HELP is a 52-week process culminating in a strategic investment plan that we think will be very dynamic for all the communities involved. Throughout the program, Okra has been blessed to be engaged with some of our finest institutions in the state of Indiana, the Purdue Center for Regional Development, the Indiana University Center for Rural Engagement, the Ball State Indiana Communities Institute, and the Ivy Tech Community College are all very vital partners in this that will steer the communities along the process of identification and prioritization along 4 identified pathways. And these pathways were developed as key community development themes, keeping in mind the goals of both HELP and the federal funding that is available for counties and cities at this time. And those 4 pathways are advancing e-connectivity, enhancing quality of life, promoting community wellness, and strengthening local economy. We know you are working with the Southwest region as part of the READY program, and there is a connection between READY and HELP. We designed this program to be a component that worked well with READY, as that's a major initiative by the governor. And we believe that participation in the HELP program will make you more ready as those funds continue to be implemented. The HELP process will do this by supporting the county and giving you the tools to critically assess previous plans, to look at community data through an equity lens, engage in diverse and creative engagement, and give you the confidence to fully leverage the Corona Local Virus Recovery Funds to meet your community needs. In the long term, participation in HELP will empower your community by establishing these systems for success with partners in your region. Du Bois County was one of those chosen to be a HELP recipient, and as part of the process, you hired your community coordinator, which was a big element in what we felt was needed for this program to be successful. And we are pleased to be working with Ryan Bobble, who is here with us this morning, as we roll out this program. I'm very excited that this is part of what we're able to partner with the county and provide this type of expertise. As we were making the selection of the communities that were engaged, the goals set by Du Bois County that stood out as we evaluated those included creating a joint planning effort. The county and the city of Jasper, who is your partner in this as well, looking forward to having a collaborative joint planning effort to address the needs using the ARPA allocations and a strategically planned proactive way. Prioritizing your investments. That was an item that stood out. While many requests for the funding have been important and relevant in this funding way, we think HELP will help you aid in the prioritization of those projects for you. And we saw that you were building on already straightforward actions in planning between Du Bois County and the city of Jasper. I think you look outside and see how that working together is something that's happening right now between the city and the county, and that was an important part of why Du Bois County was selected to participate in this and will create that enduring legacy. Du Bois County is in the second cohort group for this. We're 9 selected. This first cohort group started in January, included Kosciuszko County, Jay County, and the city of Auburn. And they're about 6 months into it, and you're going to reap the benefits of that first 6 months. We've had some interesting conversations, and we're learning a lot about how this program can help enhance it. Du Bois County is also partnered with Daviess County and the city of Vincennes in this second cohort group, and we're really excited to see those communities work together as well. This is an opportunity for the community to take advantage of the American Rescue Plan, and those dollars are spent appropriately with impact on all rural communities. Lieutenant Governor Crouch, as you know, has long been an advocate of collaboration and seeking solutions, and we believe that collaboration that's going to be demonstrated during HELP will encourage local leaders to continue to work together. From our office, we are working closely with your community to help coordinate that. Alex Taylor was down last week and met with you, I'm sure. Jill Hahn is our community liaison for Southwestern Indiana. She will be a big partner with you as you go through this process. Pamela Guerrero is our CDBG program director, and Pamela will be engaged with you as well. And Andrea Kern is the director of strategic initiatives for the Office of Community and Rural Affairs, and she oversees the HELP initiative on a statewide basis. All that contact information should be in the packets that we gave you this morning. And I know the process is already underway. We had great participation in the community development course and the core team meetings, and our team came back with very positive and excited about the results and responses that we've seen in our first couple of engagements with Du Bois County about this. So again, on behalf of the Lieutenant Governor, congratulations on being part of this program, and I'm excited how we can partner with Du Bois County and Jasper and help make you both continue to grow and prosper. So thank you for the opportunity to come and speak before you. I'm going to be going to the Jasper Council meeting with a similar message at a meeting soon, but we're very excited to be here, and I kind of tell you, it does take it's a little bit of personal pride that the director stepped out and then they made the choices, but I was very pleased that Du Bois County was engaged and been a good conversation from the very beginning. So thank you for being part of this. It's a 52-week process. It's a lot of work, but I think I know that Du Bois County is not afraid to work to succeed. So thank you for the opportunity. If you have any questions, I'd be willing to offer to take them at this time.
I think I'm in pretty good shape right now.
I think I am too. I appreciate you coming in and making the presentation, and I appreciate the support that Okra is offering to us through this program, the financial support as well as the all of the other support as well. So we're excited about it. I know Ryland is excited to move forward and try to lead this program. And Jed, you're part of the core committee, I guess is what it's called for that. So we'll see where it goes, but we're excited about it.
Yeah, it's exciting to be able to, that it's kind of forcing us to come together, plan appropriately, put in the right amount of legwork to make sure that it's a once in a generation opportunity to have these kind of funds, and we want to make a lasting impact, not just some temporary feel good thing, something that'll help the community forever.
Legacy.
Well, and that was part of what we really, where the name came from, because this we hope that this is a once in a generation opportunity with the funding that comes forward. I mean, the reason why this funding is here, we don't want to have that experience again, but it is here, and I applaud Du Bois County and all the other participants who recognize the chance to let's do something that does leave a legacy for those who work hard to make our communities better. Thank you,
John,
gentlemen.
do you have anything?
No, I'm looking very much forward to working with you gentlemen. So, it's exciting time. Thank you.
Ryland, anything to add?
Nothing else as far as help. I know for Du Bois County, our next step is to start finding and connecting with those that we can find on our pathway advisory committees. And that's the next step we're going.
As with all programs, that the first 4 or 5 months are really behind the scenes. The public doesn't see a lot of it, but there's a lot of hard work going on right now, behind the scenes. We had our first public engagement efforts up in Jay County and Kosciuszko County just a few months ago, and there was a lot of good public response and input. And I think I don't expect anything different between here in Du Bois County. I know people will be engaged, and we'll have to take the opportunity to give you all input you need to make good decisions. So thank you to Ryan for coordination on the local level as well.
Mr. Spinner, I just want to give you this is for a different, just a note for the project we had previously with the CCPWD, the connecting. I just didn't know if we wanted to do a press release or something.
Okay.
Because that project went well, and I know the
Good.
lieutenant governor came down.
Yes, thank you so much.
Just something maybe.
Yeah, we'll do a follow-up on that. I'll have them follow up, and that's always good to see. We like I've said before, I love ribbon cutting, but I like results better, and having a result that's positive, we'd like to follow up on that with you. We'll do that.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Have a good day. Thank you.
How about now? You still hanging in there, gentlemen?
One more round.
One more round? Okay, one more round. Here we go. Yes, we're gonna, Steve, we'll hold off on you, and we have a Smart City, Smart Community Platform that we're going to have a presentation on.
Good morning. Thank you again for your time today. Appreciate it. So, of course, you may remember me from last year, of course, I came and spoke about it briefly. So, now, of course, since then, we've had a lot of progress with this goal. So, I think you may have received kind of a small packet before this. So, I'm going to start with the why of why we want to kind of look into this piece. So, I guess right now there's really no quick way for the residents or then for the county to then reach out to the residents or then to the businesses in a quick manner. So let's say there was to be some maybe some sort of water main break, or maybe there was a road closure, or there could be something else related that needs to be told in a quick manner to the residents or to the businesses. There's actually no quick system in place currently that can help in that quick manner. So as in, people have to either listen to radio or they have to look on Facebook or some platform, then they have to see a billboard and so on. So there's no quick way to do that. And plus, there's always social media, but it's just a lot of drama that kind of happens there, which we all kind of know, that it cannot, that it can cause a lot of problems there. And so currently there's no true platform that actually exists that actually helps, each county or the city to actually thrive internally, because most of these, platforms are built for the mass scale. So you've got the Facebook, you've got the Twitters, you've got different apps, but those apps aren't made for the actual community here, because it's not people who actually reside here. It's just some big company that makes a platform, but it doesn't really help to grow the local economy here for a small business. So what I guess we've done, our company, is that we basically built this platform called CENT, CENT. And so the main goal of CENT is our kind of goal and vision to actually create a smart community tool platform to where it basically connects each resident to the county, or then to the, or then it could be to the city, or then it could be to the businesses, to where it'll actually help them grow in the same community. So, right now, if then you would have this, you could then reach out to residents in just a block of let's say 4th Street. You want all of them to receive a mass alert saying, hey, this street's going to be closed next week. Or then you want then all the 40,000 people in the county to know, hey, this is going to be happening on next week. Please know this is happening. So that definitely help to actually help not just for county side, but then for small business side, to where small businesses can tap into this tool that can help them grow in the local economy. And then the other piece is that it's not just a tool or the app. Every resident would have their own, secure account that then they can log into, whether it be through the app or into the web browser. And so, using this, then it can be scalable to a lot of things. So you may have seen, whether it be in paper or then on to Facebook or the others, share social media. We recently launched one, type of app for smart city in actually Perry County for cemeteries. And so you may have seen it. And so the main thing there is that it helps for then all the residents to actually search plots or then search people and actually find graves of their loved ones or friends, whoever's there. And so, it's not just a tool, just to search graves, but it can be scaled upon to where how does it actually help connect communities, here, and then actually help people here to then grow, whether it be to reach more customers, or then to actually reaching messages to the right people there. So the main goal within our company is that as we grow in these areas, we want to create jobs that actually help with the tech standpoint. So basically, our company, we've been in business now since 2007, and so our main focus before was strictly in the bigger companies, and so we have a lot of experience in that space. And so then using that experience, we want to really do a lot of good for smaller communities, rural areas, towns, and cities. Because of course I do anticipate on then trying to live around here for a long time, and of course I've grown up here. I played a lot of tennis here, so I know this area well. So I believe this will be a great investment for the community, not just for now, but to move forward for the future. Especially that of course tech is the big thing that'll be moving forward. I think definitely it's a good time too, because the new broadband has been really good as connection wise. There's been a lot of progress for that, which only help things to move more into the tech space. So that's the overall piece there. So do you have any questions overall?
So how does this communication work? I mean, what, not the technical end of it, but we have this, I'm a community member, I have an app, or I have something that's forced, or what is it?
Sure. So in Send, basically you would also have the app. So it's basically on the cloud. So it's like a cloud account role. So it's almost like you've got email, you've got Facebook, you've got that account. So you would then have the account, and then you could then opt in and say, hey, I want to receive alerts, whether it be from the business or then from the county. Now, it can be said to where maybe people have to receive notices from the county about alerts, about specific alerts. Maybe it's going to be something about stuff that is very, very important that they cannot opt out of because it is something required for them to be aware of. But basically, they would be having an account, which they can choose to have an app on their phone if they want to, but they don't have to have the app for it to work. So one of the kind of the easiest pieces that can be seen to how this can work well is that each person can get text message blast directly to their phone. So right now, if then we were to post something for the county page and to say there's going to be this thing going on tomorrow, chances are not all the people are going to see it, and then the ones who don't see it will then again go on and then put a different post or something saying that, oh, I didn't get notified because of this, and then it turns into drama. But basically, they will then get a text message directly to them, so that each resident will actually be notified at that time directly, whether it be about a thing for county, or then a thing for small business, to where, hey, we have a red tag meet sale going on today. So then, for a small business, if they go and they put it in paper or they go put it on Facebook, it costs them a lot more money because they have to pay for their ad space and so on. But in this case, they'll actually get one that's a tool that is basically connected to the this area, which I think DuBois County maybe has 40,000 population or so is what I assume that it would help them to basically reach them directly in this area, without having to say, hey, I'll pay this amount to reach how many ever people, but it doesn't truly reach them since they're not on that set account there.
I look at like a flooding event, for example, and highways can go out and they're gonna put all their signs up to say there's flooding, but before they go out, they can send this text out and say, these roads are closed due to flooding. We will be out putting up signage shortly. So in the meantime, before they get the roads closed, these people know that Old Huntingburg Road's closed because it's flooded. Or I think about the situation where we redid one of the bridge decks on Jasper DuBois Road,
People kept saying, well, looks like it's done, why can't we drive on it? And it was a curing thing. So, you send out this text blast and you might be able to direct it to just people that live on that road or, that typically travel that road and say, concrete's curing, we got 10 more days, and then they know. They don't have to go search for the information, it just comes to them. So,
But I would assume, first of all, you have to collect all of that data, the contact information, the cell phone numbers or that sort of thing. And I would assume that's on a voluntary basis, so the residents would have to kind of opt into this before it would be a benefit for them. Is that correct?
Yeah, so basically we've actually created a form that is actually very easy to use. So the form can be, whether it be shared out, however, but they would just put in their name, their phone number, it could be an address, whatever stuff that the county would wish to collect. And it's just a quick, less than 1 minute process, probably 30 seconds actually, to just get that info. It's then saved into the actual system for long-term access that can help to really.
As a resident, I would want to know how that's going to be shared. In other words, if it's going to be an emergency notification about things, that's one thing. If it's a particular red tag sale from a local department store, that's a whole other thing. And, I don't know how widespread that buy-in would be, I guess is what I'm saying.
Sure, but the main aspect would be from, probably the first part would be for the county side, for them to see how it's actually going to help for the county info. And then kind of long-term goal would be then to connect businesses, which is, that's kind of long-term goal there. So it's not just kind of all at once, but it would be kind of a steps. And so we see that probably the best first step would be to actually have buy-in from here for the county, because then it helps really set a tone, saying this is going to be a great tool to use, and we'll only keep helping make it better. How can we help?
I believe, Sandy, on our website existed, there's a place where people can sign up if they want notifications, correct?
There is.
I mean, we don't use it, but not that I know of, we don't use it, but I think we have that functionality. I don't know if that would probably be, send them an email whenever we, say we put together a community newsletter, if whoever signed up, we can send that to them. So I think we have an option to do that by email communication. Again, my one concern of mine is going to be, like you said, the buy-in. If we pay whatever for a system, the same people that don't look at Facebook, the radio, the newspaper, or anywhere else aren't going to sign up. How are we going to? It's not like we're going to get a lot of utilization. I don't see there being a lot of utilization.
I don't think you get immediate buy-in, but I think, over time, Chad knows this road's closed and I didn't, how did you know? People will start using it. And I think, I'm trying to think outside a highway, what we would use it for. Maybe, today's last day to pay your property taxes, EMA, I think there could be a lot of use for it. It's just, I guess, getting over that initial hump. I'm not an early adapter, so.
I think it's something we need to keep on the radar. It's just something that may be a process that we use. I don't know that we're there yet, but I appreciate the information and knowing that where the technology is at.
Yeah, so I would appreciate, of course, to kind of keep this on the radar and to keep it moving, because this is, something that, so I guess Tell City and then Perry County, and the city of Rockport and the city of Troy, and then also Hamilton, we're going to be doing that, there in those steps. So actually, Tell City is already going to be adopting it, and Troy's in Perry County. So other things we want to scale it. And so it's just going to help us to grow more if we get buy-in for county. So I know last year, of course, we also came in and kind of presented, for maybe it wasn't to this extent, but again, we got kind of pushed to another year. So I would think it's time. Time is the most valuable asset for I guess in all of us. So we can choose to make that indifference today, or it can wait another year, and then we can lose time, and it doesn't help for us to keep things moving. So if you keep that kind of in your mind and see how we can keep something moving, it'd be
Good. Anything else?
I don't think so.
Thank you.
All right,
all right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
So,
They go for 5 minutes.
Sorry, I kicked it right here.
It's quiet in here. Did you say what the name of this company was?
An island.
An Island LLC. AN space Island. ISLAND. Good morning. I didn't know we were opposed to that. When did that start? Oh, I heard a lot of things about you though. I mean, yeah, probably. You want to talk for a second?
Sports used down the ball. You ever signed up for that? Games are always practice. Yeah. So, yeah, I told my parents, I said, get on faster. Yeah.
It's the team or something.
Oh, yeah, there's all kinds of things down there. Like, just sign up for it. Have all the information.
Goodness gracious. And all the suspense of waiting to hear from you guys.
I know we got a lot of information.
Used to have you first.
Well, like I think I kicked to the curb today.
It's kind of nice to have something to look forward to.
That's right. That's right. That's right. Look forward to it. You know, I just let it all be. This one, it's all there. Played 3 games. We got beat the championship game, 12-9. Sure. So I was so tired last night. I got home. I brought Chinese food. I ate it. And I went to a shower and I laid down today. Just laid there. Just like, oh my God, I'm full for this shit.
How was the delay between games?
Oh, it was 4 hours. I was stiffened up. So about 2 hours in, Jason and I went around the park. Well, we played catch just to keep moving. So I figured I could use it in this lawn chair. I'm gonna be done. Then the first inning of the championship game, I was playing Andy Roller. You know, Randy put minus this professional baseball. He's not cracking the balls. I'm playing back on the fence. He hits one way in the air and short. I come sprinting as fast as I can go, and I caught it. Tried to slow down. My hamstring, I could just feel it. Nope. I just sprinted to the dugout. I was like, that's so hard for you. I would have stopped. I was going to pull something. It's one of those when you just, that sudden jerk, you knew something was gonna happen, so I had to really slow down, slow.
You slammed his shoulder.
I watched my uncle do that a couple years ago and break his shoulder. So, I decided that wasn't a good idea either. You get this much weight to do some high fives, just kidding. No, you don't time slow down.
So,
We got 12 and 9, playing really well.
have,
Our team.
Mr. Bird, do you need more than 8 minutes?
No.
Let's have you then.
Start the clock here, Steve, okay?
Put a timer on it.
Please have a very loud alarm.
That's right.
Thank you.
You need 8 minutes? Yeah, that was a heads up.
He's gonna go through it twice.
Okay, it's just a reminder, on Tuesday, September the 6th at 10 o'clock, we're going to have a sealed bid auction opening for pricing on the vibratory roller, which is for sale, and also truck 214, so.
Have we been getting some bids?
Pardon?
Have we gotten any bids yet?
Haven't seen anything yet. I know, there's been some, interest where people have been calling about it. We've had it set out where people can take a look at it and everything, so.
The truck or the roller?
Both.
I saw the truck there yesterday, but I didn't see the roller.
Yeah.
Roller just
Roller's
inside
actually
the
in
gate.
Oh, gotcha.
in the back of the lot, yeah. But, yeah, we had, pictures of it and everything, so, that should all be out. Secondly, the sanitation truck was delivered last week in satisfactory condition. Went through it, everything has met the specs, so payments are being processed and bonds being returned to the bidders that were awarded, so should be good there. This week, that's all I got.
Anybody else have anything for Mr. Bird? I don't think I do either.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Brad, you got 6?
Yeah, you get 6 minutes. Is that enough for you?
I can get them real close.
All right, let's hear it.
So I'm gonna talk and pass out at the same time. So I've got a change order for Sandy Road West. Project was complete. It does look really, really good too, as well. I'm gonna give them props. They're not great. Change order in amount of $4,172.96. It was under budget or under the bid amount. So Cal Card did come in and sign it. Steve, I need your autograph, but as well, but they are, I do think it looks good.
I move that we approve project 2207's change order in the amount of $4,172.96.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed?
That's in the county's favor.
That's right, that's why it's a quick one.
No discussion.
Not even offer.
Okay, Safe Streets for All Action Plan. I've decided to attempt to apply for this thing in-house. We're gonna see how this goes. This isn't whether municipalities want to join in. We're gonna try it in-house and see how it works. Tammy down there in EMA and Marissa have helped me kind of do the proper verbiage, so we're gonna see how that goes. I haven't applied for it yet, I'm still going through it piece by piece, make sure I get everything done.
So originally it was gonna cost 10 or 15?
15, I'm gonna try it now. I'm not promising you guys, gotta remember this is my first time doing a grant like this by myself. So that caveat's out there, we'll try it. Then Cusco Road South, Sandy, is there any way I can have the 9 a.m. slot for opening bids on the 6th?
The 6th?
Yeah. Okay. And that's what I will do for Come Over Line. I'm gonna send those projects out on Wednesday for bids. And then paving projects, they completed Old Road 545 and Du Bois Road Northwest, San Diego West, obviously, because you guys did the change order, and Celestine Road North. Rudolph has scheduled it for next week to do Old Huntingburg Road. As well as dependent and truck dependent. They're having a problem getting asphalt trucks. Then Cowcar Paving is hoping to start in Ireland this week sometime. It could be all week for that project just because there's so many twists and turns and moving back and forth. That is all I've got.
We got 3 minutes left.
I can do something.
I can.
Whole numbers.
I know you're an engineer.
Keep your toes. Make sure.
Hey, did that directional sign get up for Lemon Church? I know they moved the one on the interstate, on the highway.
You reported on that last time.
Like, the one on the highway got moved, but what about the other new one? Was that?
I haven't heard if, Mr. Nipson knows where it's gonna get, located at, but I haven't heard if he's got it.
And are we gonna put it in?
He is.
He is. Okay. I was just trying to think of something that would take 2 minutes. So,
I sent you all the national course distribution, you have to re-elect.
where the funds
Title
go.
I, and in the past, it always went into the highway fund. I think we should continue with Title I and continue, I mean, we're getting less than $250 this time. I mean, we just don't get there.
I suggested we kept with that. Is there anything to sign on that?
Nope, we just have to turn it into the state.
Okay. Thank you, Brent. Thank you. Let's move on to Psc Broadband update. Mr. Dawson?
We don't.
Good morning, thanks for coming.
Morning, Jeff.
Morning.
Thank you. Some stuff for you?
Nice work.
Only the best in your voice can.
I appreciate that.
This we did these for Spencer County, you got clear.
I won't tell them if you don't.
Appreciate the invitation. One thing we're probably not going to do today, Wayne Blake, by the way, of PSC Business Development, and in the room with me is James Dovey, our CEO, and Darren Brown, Chief Operating Officer. So, again, thank you for inviting us. We have a lot of material in here. For the amount of time we have, it's probably not practical to think that we would get all through that, but I'd like to go through the major bullet points. And then if there's specific questions about areas that you wonder how they're doing, that type of thing, I'd actually point to Darren and he could give us a real-time update on what's going on there. So I'll go through some of the bullets on this main screen. Looks like, obviously, we have a partnership with DREC and the county to get pole make ready work done. So that has gone very, very well by all accounts. And we think that's going to be complete here by the end of the month. So not just with DREC, but also with the city of Huntingburg, from what I understand. So in terms of the poles that we are attaching to. Okay. So that's very good news. I wanted to summarize how much fiber we're talking about that expected to complete, so 151 miles by the end of this year, with passing 1,700 plus locations. Those are not all considered funded locations, so we always designated funded and unfunded locations from a grant perspective, but that's potentially what we could connect with that main line of fiber. In terms of funded locations, as part of the next level 2 project, there are 686 locations that could potentially be connected for people that request service. All right.
One of the conversations we had previously as a board was, if you're going by an area, there are certain areas that you've been funded that you have to provide service to if the people would like to purchase. But if you pass a place that you aren't required to, that doesn't mean you can't still compete for that business. So because people in the community have asked me that before, they said, well, X is in my community, do I have to buy their product? Are they the only one with there or not? Designated, I'm trying to think what the right word for it is. It's not like anybody gets one area.
There's no exclusivity.
Exclusive, yeah, something like that, yeah.
Right, exactly.
So if a person wanted to, there may be, some areas will have 3 or 4 options possibly. Most will have 1 or 2.
Yeah. In terms of rural Du Bois County, I think you got it right there. So, yeah, we've tried, we have to kind of keep our eye on the prize. We have to really hit our funded locations because there are time commitments that we have to meet with the state in terms of the funding. So we really prioritize those. But as time goes by, as we get past the grant periods, obviously with fiber in place, it's just a matter of getting what we call drops connections from the main line to the home. So that's kind of the deal there. So yeah, it's hard for us to necessarily give you an exact completion date because quite frankly, these projects are really never complete. Customers sign up over time, but we do think that the lion's share of the locations that are funded in this grant will be connected by the end of the first quarter. Okay, so that's technically our grant, if I'm not mistaken, is due at the end of this year. So the grant won't be expired, and so we'll continue connecting as we go through. So actually, this date here has actually been updated. So we actually have our first customer installation as part of this project happening this week on Wednesday. So it's not Friday, it's actually Wednesday. So the timing's excellent. We're starting to connect locations. So it's really a 3-step process for us. Not everybody necessarily do it the way we do it, but we basically build all the main line, we engineer and build it. We then come back and do drops, right? And then as a third part of the process, we actually then reach out and schedule installations, which is basically coming into the home and putting equipment into the home. Okay, so we're doing our first installation this week.
So what's the difference between a drop and when you're actually taking it to the home?
So the drop is going to be basically connecting it from the mainline fiber, from a handhold, from a pole, that type of thing, into the actual home. So it's trenching in a line into the home, to the home. The installation process then would involve connecting the wire in the home and connecting it to a device, the router, switch, so that type of thing. So it's just kind of the final piece of the process.
Okay.
From a marketing perspective, we did send out a letter to all of the funded eligible locations in July, and expect to be here to do this again here in the fall, just to keep interest going. Right now, we've had about 16% of the people have signed up with us that are eligible from a funding perspective. That's about 107 locations, okay, of the 686.
This is just another one. I'm going to keep doing this because it's so interesting to me. If you had 400 people that signed up out of the 600 or 686 that are required, how long does it take to get a person installed? You do a drop and you get it into their home. I mean, do you have such a large staff that these things just get done really quickly, or does it take several months once a person asks?
It's a matter of we use subcontractors for our drop construction, right? And it's just a matter of what we have going on at any given time in terms of what we do. I think in Spencer County right now, I believe our subcontractors do about 30 to 40 drops a week. Is that about right? Right. 30 to 40 drops a week. Knowing that we have a big project in front of us, we obviously could scale that up, assuming that there's available labor. That has been, quite frankly, an issue as we've done these builds, is just getting enough labor and material availability as well. So we've gotten through a lot of those challenges, just being very proactive, pre-ordering fiber and that type of thing. Okay. And I will also mention, it's one of the slides in here, just a little piece in here, I think it's page 5, is the Indiana Connectivity Program. Just want to make sure you're aware of that. So despite the fact that there's all these grant programs, there's always people that are falling through the cracks, if you will. They're not covered under a funded program. They're not served with any current service at this time. And so for those people, it's a real hard conversation because we don't have necessarily connectivity to them. They don't have a lot of good options. And so Indiana has rolled out this Indiana Connectivity Program. We're in the 3rd version of it right now. They do basically do a bid round every 3 months, which gives us an opportunity as a service provider as well as others to bid on locations. In other words, we can say we want $4,800 of funding so that we can connect that customer, okay, because they weren't part of the actual program. And so it's kind of a one-off program, and we have, I think in the first round, I think it was, I'm trying to remember how many we bid. I think it was on 27 locations were awarded. I think about 16 or 17 of those are in process. We've actually installed a location or two, and a number of those are in Du Bois County. So just want to make you aware that out there are some other options in addition to the next level funding that we're doing.
So do you recommend people, I guess what I do is I recommend people to sign up for it. They're not happy with the current, and the state tells you if you're in a place that's already funded or if it's not.
Yeah, and so if you're part of a funded area, what the state would call the served area, you wouldn't be able to qualify under ICP. However, you don't know until you try. So go ahead and we always encourage everybody to put their application in, and it's just it comes with a 9-month requirement. So if we've successfully been on location and we win it, we have to have them installed within 9 months. So I always tell customers this is a way to kind of move yourself up the priority list if you really want to, get a chance to
Get the clock started.
Yeah, it gets the clock started for us, yeah. So, all right, I'll move on to the second slide here. I might defer to, now this is very simple. So these are basically a summary of the various build areas. We've actually subdivided our build into 15 different areas because our grants basically gave us census blocks or not census blocks, but locations all over Du Bois County, Ireland, and Snellville, and near Huntingburg, and Verdon. And so so to give you an idea of where we're building, we thought it would be good to summarize this by area. So you can see that in Verdon, we put about 23 miles of fiber in addition to what we already have there. Huntingburg, another 8 miles, and so forth, and Jasper 54. So just informational for you so you know what's going on. What we're building by, I'm sure you've seen something. The next one that I'd like to talk about that I think there probably may be some questions about, we're actively talking to a lot of customers about easements, right? Getting permission to do fiber construction on private property. Okay, that's kind of a big deal for us. We've actually consulted with legal counsel both locally and a regulatory perspective to make sure that this is really the right thing to be doing. We don't want to obviously be building in areas that we don't have permission to build on. And so we put a lot of priority on this. And so if it ever comes up as a question, we just want you to understand this is a standard business practice for PSC. We're not trying to be difficult. We're not trying to slow things up at all. But we do respect personal property. So
a lot of them coming into the office right now.
I'm sorry?
We have a lot of those easements coming into the office right now.
Because they want you to notarize or because they have questions?
To record.
Just to record them. Yeah, we've got 100.
So the landowner has to come in and do the recording?
No, they bring stacks of them in.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say, and I'll give you my little bit of feedback on it, because I saw the one that came to the county and we discussed briefly on Friday. If I was a person in the community that got that, I'd probably be like, this looks like work. So I can see that you're probably getting some of that from people.
Probably so. We've had a couple denied by landowners. We've got 130 so far. We've got 375 that we've identified that we need. One of the things we're doing is so some of the people that grant easements are in areas that are not even part of our funded build, but we're asking them to do this, and really on behalf of a neighbor or something. And so if they in fact want to get service as we're doing this, we typically charge a drop fee for somebody that's not a funded customer, like $200. And so what we're doing is we're offering a waiver of that fee if they grant the easement, just to make the process go smoother. And so we've got one gentleman that's on this, and he's doing a great job just barreling through these. And so I apologize for the work, but it's good work to be doing. It's something that I think it'll create less issues down the road, because if we come and start barreling through with construction, there will be potential issues that we don't want, none of us want to deal with. So
is your option just to zigzag around people? I mean, is that the only option you have? If people say no, we're not going to allow it?
If it comes down to it, Derek probably addressed this better, but the zig and the zag has to take place. We need to get the fiber deployed, and if a landowner, property owner doesn't want us on his property, we have to make different arrangements for it. So it's something that our company has always practiced. The private easement, we're in a lot of public right of way and so forth, but the private easement is just showing respect to the property line. That's plain and simple, to let them know what's getting ready to take place on the property. And that's why we do it. We go to the nth degree. We have our counsel advise us on this, and it has been. I would think the number one thing delaying our project, if we had to put one thing on top, it's the receipt of easements. Would you say that?
So, yeah, we're trying to work through to get the runway as best as we can in regard to continuity of on the project, so, we're trying to, expedite and make it as easy for the homeowner, the property owner to do it. We've got a guy that can come out and do the notarize the easement out in the field, come out and meet with him in the evening, whatever it takes. So trying to make it easy for him and explain it to him. In some cases, we're on private easement on poles. There's really no property destruction per se, no underground work, but the poles are on private property. We don't have the easement. The electric provider does. So that's not conveyed to us as the easement. That's why we do it. Otherwise, we're trespassing. So
you're doing it the right way, even though it's more of a hassle. Because you could put the line on there, and most people would assume that you have the right to do it, but that's not the right way to do it. You're saying the electric has the easement, we would like the easement as well, we grant that to us. And I think people will appreciate it, respect that.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
So the other obstacle that gets in the way, and I don't know that it's been a huge problem here in DuBois, we've had some issues in Spencer, is around permitting, particularly with railway permits, which can take up to a year sometimes to get the permitting. But Darren, anything you want to say about permitting?
yeah, we've got, I know we've got some permits with y'all, got those reviewed and approved. Thank you. And also right-of-way permits, we got to get those as well. Norfolk Southern Railroad got some of those going up 64 going east of St. Anthony up toward Birdseye. So those take some time, and those are, some of them are already done or in process. So we'll do those.
Okay. And then, I put a slide in here just to kind of give you a summary of kind of what we've invested in the county thus far and what this project kind of needs in addition to that. So through our CLEC investments into Huntingburg, Jasper, and Ferdinand, and just various parts of the county, St. Anthony, we've got over $20 million already invested in the county. This through the grant investment as well as our own investment and what the county put in towards this, puts us up about $28 million. So of investment. So I just thought that would be good to share that. And those are really the major bullets that we wanted to cover as part of this update. Now, there are a whole bunch of maps in here. We do a lot of mapping. The PSC, we work with maps every day. And what these maps are showing is where that we stand with regard to the make-ready work on the poles, which, as I said, that's done very well. We're almost complete with that work in terms of our poles that we're attaching to. Then there's another set of maps that get into the actual fiber construction and where we stand. There's a legend at the bottom will tell you kind of where we stand. And then the third set of maps is actually orders. So if you're interested in where customers are ordering from, where they're located, where we're seeing the orders come from, it'll show you that as well. So.
So the ones that you've highlighted on here, are these the ones that are in the areas that you're required to do?
Yes.
That's what you're sharing. You're not sharing
Correct.
Everywhere else you're going.
Everything that's shaded is a funded area. So you can see how fragmented that looks, right?
So you, for example, I'm just looking right in the middle of the map of Maltersville. So you're on the east side of Maltersville, up the road there for Maltersville. You may be servicing people on the west side of Maltersville. If it works.
Potentially,
so.
yeah.
As Wayne pointed out on the Indiana Connectivity Program, there's a whole lot of areas around that may end up not being funded. And so we're trying to make it as easy for those folks to communicate with them in regard to how they can get onto the Indiana Connectivity Program. Because at the end of the day, there could be a whole lot of places that are not funded that we would be. There's a lot of money available through the state through this program. It's just a matter of we need to make sure we channel that down. It could help pay for a lot of connections. And so we just don't want to ignore that part of it. So
Yeah, we're going to be doing more marketing on Indiana connectivity. We're getting ready to launch a pretty large mailing for unfunded customers in Spencer County that are affiliated with SIP. And there's no reason why we couldn't do something like that in Dubois County as well. A little bit further down the road with that, but once we get through this kind of major project, then we can really start pushing customers to this other program. As well as there's a new round of next level connection funding come available around 4. However, with current, the current parameters we're working under, it's not clear that there will be a lot of areas that would actually show us eligible, given how much has already been awarded in Dubois County through.
The goal is 100% saturation, and you're saying that we're getting closer to that, so there's less to bid on.
Right.
Correct?
Right,
Yeah.
but there are a lot of little exceptions that sit in between that we still want left.
Are you aware, is there a map that would show not only the work that your company's doing, but all of the other companies combined, to show that overall penetration? Do you know, does the state track that?
I think it does. I'm trying to think if they've updated that map to indicate. I think when they award the program, they show where the awards are. I think you can go on the website and see that in terms of where the progress is or how much they've done and how much, I don't know. I know that the federal government is working on a major mapping project to kind of do this across the US, which all of the new grant programs will be standardized on this new mapping. We haven't seen, I haven't seen that yet, but
Yeah, the new FCC fabric that they're calling, that they're wanting to migrate everything to identify, and everything is kind of with census blocks. Well, the rural areas, unfortunately, because it's rural, it gets this overlap. So now everything's kind of like the Indiana connectivity program is address based. So it kind of drills down so that you don't have, oh, you're in a rural area, you're in a census block, one person served here, but then there's a whole bunch over here, they just said they're served too because they're in a rural area. So trying to get more detail, and it's just going to be a challenge. It's a massive project.
Because I would assume in a year from now, there's going to be citizens, probably myself included, are going to say, well, you said I'm served. Who's supposed to serve me? Is there one location I can go to find out who am I supposed to contact? Is it Spectrum or?
Hopefully the provider ultimately would contact you.
It's in their benefit to market to me.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I know, we're in the arena that for everybody outside the arena, they have to look at this and go, this is bizarre how all this is going. How one neighbor across the street is considered served, and how the one across the street is unserved. It's just the programs that have evolved over time. I mean, the federal program, they have reverse auctions that we participated in, the CAF and the RDOF, and Reconnect is a grant program through them. And then now they're starting to feed their money to the state. And what's happened is as this has evolved, like Darren said, things used to be on a census block. So if you were in a census block that maybe had 1 or 2 people that could get, at that time, a lower bandwidth, 10 megabit was the definition of being served, anything above. So if you had 2 people in that whole census block, it was deemed served. And the others were going, wait a minute, I can't even get 10 megabits. So the programs are moving more from a census block down to street level, down to address level, and that's the importance of all these maps. It's the only way that truly it's going to be able to get done. And along the way, they keep raising the bar. Even here in the state, I think next level started out as 10 megabit. Anybody below 10 megabit was considered unserved. So that's the funding. Now, through time, through their different rounds, they raise it to 25. I would like to see it raised to 100 megabit. That anybody less than 100 megabit is unserved. Because then what are you saying when you start getting to that level of megabit? Is you're saying we want fiber to be deployed. Now, wireless is a great technology, but in our area where it's hilly and the terrain and the foliage and the trees, it's difficult. So I think if we could get things really down to address level and we could raise the bar truly of what is unserved, if it is 100 megabit, you open up, and ICP is trying to take care of this. The problem with ICP is every single person who goes to that portal, we have to bid on. It's almost like a mini application that we have to put in for each and every location. I'd like to see a large swath of, hey, let's get this thing going, and let's raise the minimum to 100 megabit, so everybody now can go through a much bigger project like what we've taken on, and they could be considered for that, instead of these individual portals. Right now, the ICP is the only thing available for people who are truly unserved. But I would like to see the government, be it federal or state, Oprah, I know Denny Spinner was just here, let's raise that bar to where we could have a lot more people eligible. And so companies can more efficiently tackle those projects.
Yeah, Jim, the thing with ICP, there's no guarantee that a service provider will necessarily bid on a location. It's a voluntary basis. And so there was many that we didn't bid on that we did bid on. So what happens is if you already have a fiber footprint near the area, you're more likely to bid on it. If you don't, you're still talking about a massive investment, just to get to a location or two. You might be talking $50,000, $100,000 to get to a location. It just doesn't make any economic sense. And that's where the state probably has to do a better job of understanding that and building a program around it. So again, I won't take you through all the maps. If you have some specific questions, obviously, I'm here to address them.
I'd like to just make one comment. What I've heard, is saying in my area, people come to me and say, well, when all this fiber is being run, and we haven't been contacted. I think if we could get the public the notice to the public, you need, just because fiber is being run by your house doesn't necessarily going to be hooked up. You have to apply for it. So I think if we can get that out, onto the public, I think we're going to be better off here. Have less dissatisfied constituents.
You're saying you think the homeowner has to be proactive in searching out a drop?
Right, because I think there's an assumption out there that just because fiber is running by your house, you're going to get it. And you've said this, but I think the public's going to step up and say, I want fiber. And maybe there's a lot of people who don't want it because they're happy with what they've got line of sight or something. They may not want it. But if you want it, you're going to have to contact Psc or Orange County or whoever and say, I want, if you're going to be out there, I want the service.
It's a very difficult thing, unfortunately. We set up a website, so customers can go online, sign up, they can call us and all that type of thing. But I think it's difficult for customers to understand. And we have this patchwork of connectivity that we're here, but we're not here. And you got Orange County doing all their thing. You got Spectrum. So you got all these different services. There's no central clearinghouse for if I need service, who can I call, right? And that's really the difficulty of what this has created. So I don't necessarily have a solution. I just know that it's got to be frustrating.
I think if the public's aware, if they're wanting it, they need to contact somebody.
People contact us. I know I've talked to people that are in funded areas for farming, and if they're there, tell them to contact them. It's a matter of getting that person broadband service. That's what we need to focus on, not trying to get in a land grab here and say, well, we're just all trying to go out. We just need to first prioritize and say where the resources are at, where the funded program is at. It's supposed to serve that customer in that area, and then we'll help them. We're gonna help them. If it's us and somebody else where that needs to be, because it is confusing. I told Jim the other day, there's over 100 funded programs, federal all the way through state, for broadband now. 100.
There. And see that's the crux of the problem. Forever we were, because that's our business, we were promoting rural broadband, advocating for rural broadband, and making some progress. But then all of a sudden, here comes the pandemic, and then it's, oh my, we need to get broadband out to rural residents, just for work from home or telehealth or schools and so forth. So all this money just came into these programs, and that's where the problem was. They weren't really established programs. They were kind of on the go. All this money was there. So from a federal level, from a state level, even from a local level, all these funds were put, and it has caused some confusion because, for instance, Stendal is a community that was awarded, and the state started getting out partial awards. I think there's four providers that were partially awarded in and around the Stendal area. And all you know Stendal. I mean, and so to me, I don't want to say it's the definition of insanity because you don't sound appreciative when you say something like that, but that's where the work has to be done to eliminate the confusion for the rural residents and so forth. When you're going through, is that Psc? No, that's Orange County, or that's Spectrum, or that's Mainstream, or whatever. So where am I supposed to go? Who am I supposed to sign on with? That's the next step, I think, is the more education, more information, and so forth that we can share. But it's a learning process as we go. When you have all this money coming in, it's everybody's trying hard. Don't get me wrong, everybody's trying hard to get this problem resolved. And I think we're making great headway. And the money is leading the way in order to do that. But there's still a fair amount of confusion for local residents on who's going to be my provider in the end. And that's where we need to get further, drill down, further explain how it works. And really, even with the funding, anybody can go anywhere. You don't have, just because one area is awarded to a certain provider, that doesn't mean anything. Yeah, they're going to get funding, but anybody who wants that area can go in and do it on their own time. So the funding is just there because they realized there was a need, a lot of the unserved people. What can we do to get a provider to step up to the plate and provide the service? So,
on a physical level, if your company and two other companies or four companies are serving Stendal, does that mean there's four different fiber lines? It's not like, because like with telephone, isn't there a wire and it's shared and people are renting or using space on that? Everybody always has their own.
Everybody has their own
physical technology asset. Okay. I was thinking that historically, I thought telephone, for example, one company could bid or offer to pay to use the line that you put up.
When you make a long distance call, right, you're connecting through various networks.
Correct.
But in the local loop, in the local area, it's a dedicated wire.
Okay. So there may be an area there where four providers have four fiber wires running through.
Everybody follows through on their projects, there will be.
Yeah, you know, Stendal St. Anthony is another kind of area where you got.
So it's very inefficient. So that's one of the negatives. It's inefficient because you're paying 4 times for the same thing that one person could have done.
Mm-hmm.
On the other hand, does ensure that there's going to be competition in an area, which is probably
the good outweighs the bad. There's some inefficiencies, and it's to be expected. Like I said, when all this money comes in, if you watch the flow of the funding and the decision making, I think here with the BEAD program and the federal, they're handing it over to the state, millions of dollars, whatever the state gets awarded. I think the states now might even get a little bit more active and go down to the local level and get local decision making involved. So you see, because really that's what it takes. You almost have to be on the ground to see your area and where are the pockets of the people that are truly unserved in order to get there. And I think that's the way the future is headed, is there's going to be more decision making pushed even down to the local level. We'll see if that holds true or not. But the end is just trying to get everybody connected to broadband. And we're all trying.
I don't think I have anything further.
I don't have anything. No, I don't either. Thank you for the
Appreciate
presentation.
Mr. Gleason or anybody else have any?
I do. Thanks for coming and explaining. I hope the public can hear it. And, I get a lot of calls. I know.
This might be an area where that, that's city that would be helpful as far as reaching out to the residents and saying this is what's good in your area, this is what's coming, now it's hooked up,
So you get initially find a way to communicate with them to get them signed up, to get them that second level.
Well, and not
Right,
even
right,
that,
that's
how
the-
do I know you have PSC, you have Orange County Fire, you have Spectrum, you have, how do we know that to push that out?
Yeah.
Do you wanna be the one that says you got PSC, you're wrong?
They would know that.
They would know who is available to, but not that necessarily, I guess they would know who.
They would know my address.
If someone signed up, they would know who their customers were.
Right, but wouldn't they know their area? Like, wouldn't they be able to say, we just ran down X road and everyone to the south side of X road is now, available to hook up?
So you're not saying just text that person, you're saying text everybody that.
Right,
I don't really care
right.
to know that.
But it wouldn't, you can direct it.
That's what they think they're selling, is that you can kind of, if
You
somebody
can
signs
direct it
up
to a certain area.
and add by address.
And that's something that people would probably sign up to find out. Oh, I want to know as soon as I can sign up. So,
Yeah, I think that was a good update. I'm glad they came, and I'm glad Orange County came last time. Okay, we have WTH electronic map application agreement.
We received an agreement from WTH for King Dumba, which is open core logic for data. $750, I guess, will be the fee that is collected.
We're gonna share our data, and CoreLogic is going to pay us a small fee for
Yeah,
that. Mr. Schneider, did you review the contract?
I did, just,
Any problems with it?
no, it's similar to what we've done before. I know some get it.
I think the county ends up getting $250.
And who is the people who want to?
CoreLogic. What are some of the things that CoreLogic does? Are they with the property tax escrowing, or are they with, who's CoreLogic, what do they do?
Just says CoreLogic requesting county GIS data. I have on here. When the fully executed application is received, the requesting client will be notified once payment is received. The GIS will send the county $250.
The way I generally look at most of these is that it's data that the public is paid for, and if someone else wants to use it and pay for the privilege, then I'm okay with that.
what we've done in the past.
Mr. Roach, you have a comment on it, or what?
No, I agree. I'm just curious as to who Pingalimba,
That's what it said on there.
that's the individual.
That's the person, yeah.
That's the individual with CoreLogic. Okay.
So they're real estate, mortgage, insurance, they collect data.
So that's like a right for the property, unrivaled property and data insight technology. It's not an advertisement, I'm just.
I'll move that we approve the electronic map data application agreement with CoreLogic.
I'll second.
Any other discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carried. All right, let's do some appointments here. The first one, I'm gonna skip the planning commission, that one will be a little harder maybe. So for Community Corrections Advisory Board, we have 2 vacancies. One is for a layperson, one is from an educational, has to have an educational administrative background. I reached out to Superintendent Dr. Tara Rashi, and she agreed to take the spot if we would like to appoint her to fill the educational role. Anybody have any comments on that?
No.
I think it should be a good appointment.
Okay, and the next one is a layperson, so that can be anyone. I found somebody that is willing to do it, but I would be open to letting them. It's Jonathan Burton. He and his family moved here from California a little over a year ago. He is the person known to me that is interested in what goes on to, as a member of the public. new to the area and wants to get involved in some ways. So that would be my recommendation for the layperson, or we can hold off on it if you want to give other people you'd like to look for on that.
I think I'd be okay moving forward to the educational. I don't know anything about Jonathan Burton. Wouldn't mind reaching out and seeing if there's any other options there. Not anything against this gentleman, but let's see if there's anybody else interested.
Mr. Browns?
Yeah, I don't have anybody, to recommend, anybody else to recommend. I'm okay with what Nick said, if he wants to reach out a little bit further and see who's available or who might be interested. And the Northeast DuBois one that continues in that same, in other words, there was somebody from Northeast DuBois. Bill Hoaxing was, so this Tara would be replacing Bill. Okay. I think that's a normal path.
Okay, so let's do them one at a time here. Tara Rashi for Community Corrections Advisory Board. I'll move that we appoint her to that position.
I'll second.
All in favor of that motion? Aye. Aye. That motion carries. So Sandy, do you have a form for that? Do you know?
I'll have to look.
Okay, so that one is passed, and then as far as Mr. Burton, I'm fine with holding off to the next meeting, if you don't mind putting it on the agenda at the end.
What's his name?
Burton is the last name. Jonathan. And if anybody reaches out to any of us and we want to discuss who's the best candidate to do that, that'd be great with me. So I'll let him know that we'll make the determination at our next meeting. Okay, for the Jasper Planning Commission, I did email out, I asked, Mr. Schnare sent me what the requirements are. They have to be a resident of the unincorporated area or the county, must also be owners of real property located in whole or in part within the unincorporated area. It has to be one of those two, and they can't be in the same political party. So I reached out and emailed you guys up, but nobody responded. I don't know which political party either of these people were. Did you know what Angel's political affiliation was?
I don't know either. I was waiting for an answer to that. I didn't know.
And the other, Mariner, right, is the other appointment. So
we have 2 appointments here.
No, well, the Mariner's already.
So Mariner's still on there.
Mariner's still on.
But we need to know what political party wanted.
I'll see what I can find out.
Mr. Schnare is on the case. So with that, did anybody have anyone, I guess,
Well,
in mind?
I had some ideas, but I don't know, until I know the political party that they need to serve, or they need to be a part of, I didn't know where to go with it.
So we'll circle back to that when he comes back in the room. That is all of the scheduled agenda items. For other items, is there anything from the auditor?
Just the, I don't think this has to do with the meeting. And I didn't know if you wanted to do something with this or not. I think you approved it, you didn't sign.
Okay.
Mariner on Acton Road, is that where he's at?
I think that's the update, I think this is the update one came in, you guys worked on.
This is 193, so this is.
Oh, no, sorry. This is, sorry. This is for our renewal of our 0365 license. Every year we have to redo these.
We have funding in place for it?
Yeah, we do.
So these are good. So is RQAW going to be put into a different invoice?
We have not received it, they'll probably come today.
So are you gonna just fill it in on this form, or are we gonna have to do a separate form for them?
I can ask them.
I think they do it on a separate form.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'm asking
she put it on there because it's always on the
Phrase
form,
it
but,
so I don't want it to be like, here, you
and she usually highlights until you send the approval.
And I think
You
it's
sent that, you just did, and I already had it here.
Okay.
So, what's this?
The second copy. We need to sign that one.
Um,
This one might be for our reference because it's highlighted, and the next one's clean.
I don't know, just do it, and then that way I got it. And then we'll do the RQAW on a separate one.
And then we have an invoice here from Matrix Integration for our yearly fee to
our licensing.
licensing from Microsoft Office. So, I don't know if we wanna, anybody wants to look at it. But that's where we got, so that's what we do every year.
We have 193 users, I think, right now. It goes up every year. The more people we add, the more licenses we need.
Anything else from the auditor's
I
office?
think that's all I have.
Okay. The auditor and I do have an appointment set up with Revised to do a website update kickoff of some sort. So I've provided them with some information, but they want us to have a meeting before they move on. So that's ongoing. If either of you have any photographs you'd like to have added to the website, please provide those.
Or comments of how you want to change, because it's gonna be relayed out.
I'll send you one of my headshots.
That'd be fun. Mr. Chair, do you have any ideas on anything? Or you have that weren't successful?
I was not very successful though. I believe Mr. Maringer was probably a Democratic appointment.
Okay.
Would we have that on our stuff?
Huh?
Would we have that in our files?
I don't know that we would have it on our sheet.
I looked in our minutes from when we appointed Angel, and it said which party he was.
There was not a designation.
But what happens is, and this is not pertinent necessarily just to this, but what happens when we make a political appointment? Because in Indiana, you can change your party at every primary election.
Right.
So what happens if we make a political appointment and party changes in the next election?
That person would become ineligible to serve in that capacity.
And who knows that?
The clerk's office.
I mean, how would we
Yeah, we'd have
keep track of
to,
that?
we'd have to go back and,
We would have to make sure that they understand that, basically it goes by what primary you voted, does not.
Correct.
yes.
Or you can look at it again from a historical perspective. Over the last 12 primaries, you voted this way in 8 of them or 10 of them.
Okay.
It is far from an exact science, but also I think that the entity that they're serving for.
I guess what my point would be is that whoever we would appoint would have to understand that, if you vote in the other primary, it could take away your eligibility.
It'd probably be a situation where nothing happens till somebody complains that that
Right.
person is this. Because we've had that one time.
They make a decision that somebody doesn't approve of, they can challenge their position on that board.
Correct. I started looking at the maps and using the tool to see what the 2-mile jurisdiction is, and
Is it Randy Maringer?
Yes.
Yes.
it's a pretty substantial amount of people that would be qualified
Okay.
to be on the board.
Okay, so you.
Does that include how far out in Ireland goes?
All the way.
All the way.
Not the town. It goes, it's kind of
touches it
like,
down.
Like out there, Arrowhead.
I thought it was right by the, what used to be the log yard there, right before you get in there. I thought that was a 2-mile jurisdiction.
Okay, that's fine, thanks.
Well, according to the tool, I ran the tool out.
We have a
because they
notation. We don't have a notation on it.
Well, because I was curious, like out in Arrowhead Estates, so. I guess, like White West, more south of Arrowhead.
Here's his phone number.
Do you know how to do that measuring tool on there? Yeah, so when I did that, yeah, all of Arrowhead worked.
Okay.
I have Randy's phone number on this petition.
Should we call him up and say, what party are you?
And based on the primaries, it would be the Democratic Party.
Okay,
Even
I think we should make an assumption, I think that's.
The last one he voted in, that's the way it was.
Okay, so I think we should look for a Republican, member for I think that's the simplest way to do it. So, let's do that. Hopefully we'll have some suggestions for the next meeting. Does that sound fair to
And
both
this-
of you?
And this is replacing Angel?
Yes. Mr. Burrows, are you saying that you didn't think that geographically it reached to Ireland, or for some reason the town wasn't eligible?
As I look at it now, I agree with you that it looks like it does, but I thought for some reason I saw a map somewhere that put it right at the edge of the road.
And that may have been for Kai, just, addition or whatever, just keeps expanding.
And yeah, I mean, and it depends on, the map's gonna follow the jagged edge of the city, I would think. So I don't know, would we get a map from the city for that? Who would have that map?
I don't know if there is one. It's measured as needed for those purposes, I think. Okay, so
Are you on GIS or are you on the city side?
I'm on GIS.
I think the city may have one too.
So if you're zoomed out enough on our map, it'll show you the outline of the city, but if you zoom in too close, it will disappear.
That goes away.
So you have to look at it just the right height.
But if you go due west, for example, the city limits are right down by Bushgetter Road. I guess that's the
What is
edge of
that,
the city
450?
limit.
What is that? 350?
On 56, that's on Highway 56. That's the edge of the city limit. I think that's it anyway. Yeah. But then if you were to go down to the Brecher Estate, in other words, if you just kind of sweep the 2 miles, then it goes out considerably further.
That's where I measured from the end of the Kirstein subdivision up, it encompasses the.
So you're almost down into the old poor farm down there at city limits. Yeah, 490 West.
That house on the poor farm would be eligible.
That's not city limits. But it certainly would be
Within the 2 miles, right?
within
Because
oh,
that's
yeah.
a section of.
It's almost city limits. The 490 is the edge of the city limits right there.
Mr. Schneider, do you have any updates on anything from legal?
I do not know.
Any bankruptcy updates? I just love talking about that.
For your benefit, no, I do not.
Okay. I mean, is there more action to be had on that, or?
There is not. I don't know where they're at on the plan part of it. Kind of just held off on asking them any questions until we had an idea what direction that was going.
Mr. Berg, what about from you? Does the state say anything else about our crater? I didn't know if there was any, where the action was on that, or if we're in a holding pattern.
The last I heard is that I think the bankruptcy and IDM, there's some decisions that are being made as far as the cleanup on some of the IDM issues on the mine. So I haven't heard anything.
Okay. Have we been getting any complaints from anyone in the community? And I mean, if you guys, I had one, I think, in the last couple of weeks that they're mad that the road's closed, but the north-south road, but I've only gotten one. Okay. All right. So on Friday, Rylan and I had a Zoom meeting with Taylor, Seeker, and Williams. We talked about the costs, the process of doing the comprehensive plan, and I just kind of got that started. So I took a whole page of notes here, but I'll just briefly say that they've done work for the city of Huntingburg, city of Jasper. They did the bike path. Is that correct? The bike trails.
Yeah, they were involved in that.
Involved in it.
Part of that.
So they know our area well. I wouldn't have a problem using them if we decided to do a planning thing going forward. But I would guess that it's probably in our best interest to do an RFP. I would assume. I don't know who would put that together, but I think they are a specialized service, so we could just choose them if we wanted. If we wanted to get a proposal from them on our own. And see what, so I think that's the step where they're at. I said, what is going to be the next step at the end of our meeting? They said the next step would be to give us a draft and a scope of what they would offer. I looked online and the Herald reported that Huntingburg paid $108,000 for their plan, but there was a lot of additional things added onto there. City of Jasper was maybe a little less than that, and the folks that we talked with there said that you can expect $60,000 to $100,000 for such work. And it's about a 10-month process. The reason Jasper and Hummingbirds were more, they had more extensive broad engagement. They had a website. They set up a vendor booth at the Strawson Fest. They did a lot of extra things, and you gotta pay for everything that you do extra there. I asked them about doing this to coincide with our work with HELP, to help avoid planning fatigue, because if I ask Steve to come to the meeting, and then I ask him to come back 2 months later and ask him the same questions, what the community needs, what are his ideas for that, you may wear people out. So I thought, I was asking them if they would be able to participate in some way early on to not have redundant activities as we plan for HELP and for the community in general. They said that part of what they put into a comprehensive plan, they said there's multiple levels. One of them talks about land use. One of them is about utilities. So those were two things where I thought, well, we don't have zoning, and we don't have utility services at this time. Anyway, I shared with them where we stand, and they're going to come back with some kind of draft, I suppose. Good enough?
Mm-hmm. Yes, appreciate that.
So I spent a lot of hours yesterday and over the last week looking at soft cost for the Justice Project. So we have a 911 communication center, emergency management, Sheriff's Department, community corrections, and just everything that's going to be out there. So there are a lot of rooms and a lot of places that are going to need television sets, tables, chairs, cabinets, anything that goes inside of a building. So I've been trying to give a good eye to those. Maybe this is a good topic to bring up. One argument would be if we have equipment that is still in good shape, we should reuse it in a new facility. Another one would be we have a brand new multi-million-dollar facility. We have everything new inside of it so that it looks like, so that we've invested properly for this. We didn't want to put an old beat-up table in a brand new facility, for example, would be the other argument. So I don't know. Which way would the two of you lean on something like this? Should we maximize usable utilitarian purposes? That cabinet works fine, stick it in an office, or that doesn't match with the other stuff, let's get a matching set.
I don't know that there's a black and white there. I mean, yes, if it works, if it matches, let's use it. If it does, but at the same time, we don't want a mismatch of stuff. So, I don't see a black and white. It's almost a per case or per piece of furniture. I mean, there can be some guidance given as to, we basically want it to look like not necessarily a new product, but certainly a quality product when we're finished with it. I don't know how you're approaching all of this. Each department head bringing a list of what their needs are, and making a recommendation that we will approve at some point in time.
I'll give you an example. There's existing offices in community corrections and existing offices in the Sheriff's Department that have furniture in it. They're working and they're using it now. Do we say, well, those existing offices, keep the equipment, keep what you're using because it's working apparently, and then the new offices that are added, we'll put a new set in each one of those? Do we do that, or do we say, across the board, we're wiping these things out and we're going to put new in everywhere? That's one of the.
If we're across the board one way or the other, I would probably lean towards new in the new section. But I think there's probably some gray areas there. The folks sitting at a desk that's 20 years old and, functions the way offices functioned 20 years ago. But I just got my chair because the old one broke. I'm gonna take my new chair to the new office and leave my old desk. Offices work a lot different than they did 20 years ago. So.
It's very detailed and there's a lot to it. Because, for example, one of the table systems for the sheriff's department is $17,000. Because it has to be a table that you can't, like here, you could peel this apart and make a weapon out of it possibly. So it has to be a solid countertop, it has to be corian or something. So I'm looking at it like two straight tables, $17,000. Really? That's what it is. So I want people to have what they need, but I think there needs to be an eye on it so that we don't have an idea that we're going to spend $700,000 and we spend $3 million because office equipment is expensive, and if it's specialized for correctional purposes, some of the equipment you can double it. It's overwhelming. You wouldn't think so when you look at a floor plan and you see, well, we've got 12 offices, we're getting 13 new offices. There's just a lot of components.
Again, I think a general guideline would be we want it to be function and look like a quality product when we're finished. But if old equipment will meet those needs, then we use the old equipment. The current equipment. And so that's going to have to be, with those guidelines, the department head determines what their needs are, approved by us, and we go forward.
Okay.
And I know that you and Mike have been looking at it, and I appreciate that. I appreciate the diligence on that. And I would continue to lean on you guys to be our representatives there and make the recommendation. Say community corrections needs are these, the sheriff's department needs are these, 911 is here.
Yeah. We'll just keep plugging along on it. Let's see, what's next? Let's do, we've got the minutes from the August 1st, 2022 Commissioners meeting. I move that we approve as presented.
I'll second.
Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. We have the payroll from the last period. I move that we approve as presented.
Second.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. We have the claims against the county and the voucher register here. I didn't see any changes needing to be made. Anybody else have any comments on it? I move that we approve.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Earlier, I shared with both of you Operation Greenlight. It's something that the National Association of Counties is putting out as a new program. The idea behind the program is to shine light on the plight of veterans in the counties across the country who have a hard time connecting with their benefits. It's a way to maybe shine a light, in this case a green light, on the county buildings, and to make people ask why is that, and then say why it is, and it can help direct people to the Veteran Service Office so that they can have a way to connect with the earned benefits that they have. You think that's a good idea, bad idea, indifferent?
You're talking about on special occasions.
For 1 week between, there is a,
Aren't we doing that already with trying to get veterans in? You got one y'all come around?
yes, Yeah, this is just something additional to that. It says with Operation Greenlight launching nationwide, counties will literally shine green lights from their county buildings from November 7th through 13th. Veterans Day is November 11th. To send a clear message to inspire veterans to reach out to their county veteran service officers. And I asked Scott if that's something that's possible. He sent me this. I don't know if it's possible or not. I don't know if there's green light bulbs or what did you do something like this?
Tell you what I would suggest is that we talk to the city about just turning the LEDs that hang around the courthouse green for the week. And, you know, if we want to go a little bit further and change light bulbs, you know, all I gotta do is flick a switch and turn it green. Like everybody would ask, why is it green in November?
I think the LEDs, they do the red, white, and blue for veterans and all that, so just asking them.
Yeah, it's just a matter of flipping a switch, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I don't have a problem with the concept.
Yeah, I don't.
If it's workable.
I wouldn't want to put too much burden on Scott. I mean, I don't want him to have to go around and change all the outdoors light bulbs or.
I was thinking if we had 2 on the monument and maybe 4 on the backside of the building, that'd be enough for people to say that's where you're going.
Yeah.
Okay? That's all I have at the moment. Anything from either of you?
No, I don't know.
Public comment? And there, anything you want to talk, do we have to have any conversation on the sewer project at this point?
We were supposed to have a meeting today. Mary came down with the flu bug over the weekend, so we are going to meet on Friday, so I can have more in our next meeting.
I appreciate that explanation. I just felt a little bit behind on that and felt like that.
I did my best, but like I told Chad, she can definitely explain better, and I think she's the engineer.
I think I understand where we're at and moving forward with it. I mean, and I support moving forward, don't get me wrong. I just don't want to jump over something that needed to be done ahead of time.
It felt like we went from 0 to 100 real quick.
Yeah.
Right. But it really didn't.
You know, I guess I was under the impression that the next thing that had to happen was the various ordinances or bylaws or whatever that we needed to set in place along with the board of directors, or not the board of directors, but a governing board for that district, for the district, before any construction or even engineering would take place, but maybe not.
But so to me, it read like it is concurrent, right? That the development of the board and all that is going on at the same time as we're preparing for.
Great sheet, some sample ordinances, did she not?
So at one point she had sent out kind of like, here's what they did in this community.
Right.
Bylaws as well. This.
All right. Like I said, I'll meet with her on Friday, so if you have any additional questions, reach out to me.
Want to hear anything else? Okay, we'll close the meeting.